Hello, WiCyS community. Welcome to WiCyS Presents Woman in the Middle. I'm your host, Jackie McGuire, and for the next few weeks, we're going to do something just a little bit different. WiCyS had their national conference at the Gaylord Resort in National Harbor, Maryland a few weeks ago, and I was lucky enough to be on site and record a whole bunch of interviews with current and future cybersecurity leaders. The topics range from technical to professional to deeply personal, and I have to tell you the truth, it was exhausting recording multiple days of interviews, but I also had a lot of fun doing it, and hopefully you'll have just as much fun listening. We'll get back to our normally scheduled program in a few weeks, but in the meantime, please enjoy these interviews live from WiCyS 2026. Welcome back. We are live at WiCyS 2026. I'm Jackie McGuire, your host for Woman in the Middle, and joining me is Gabby Bozier. Gabby, welcome.
Hi, Jackie. How are you?
I am tired. We are at the end of our day. It feels like it's been a marathon.
Yes.
How has your day been?
Great.
Yeah?
Making great connections, meeting new people.
Yeah.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about what you do.
So I work at Navy Federal, and Navy Federal Credit Union has had a 3-year strategic partnership relationship with WiCyS.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm a Navy brat myself, so I've had a few car loans at NFCU, so appreciate what you do to keep my PII safe.
Well, I'm not military,
Okay.
but I started my career almost 20 years ago, and actually 21 years ago in the intelligence community.
Okay.
So I worked at NSA.
Awesome.
And I was able to find my pathway there through a program called Scholarship for Service. They paid people to go to graduate school, and then upon graduation, you owed a work obligation. And so I worked for NSA. And then in 2018, I decided to venture out and go back to financial services.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So how many WiCyS conferences have you been to?
This is my 3rd conference.
Okay.
Okay. So before I say anything, I should probably say thank you to Dr. Siraj for having the foresight, the courage, and the determination to start WiCyS way back in 2014. Yeah. And definitely thank you to Lynn Dong.
Lynn does a lot.
Expert communicator, an expert strategic communicator with so much charisma.
Yeah.
So
She has let me run with all of my crazy ideas, including this podcast. We just launched this podcast in February, and so yeah, she's a wonderful supporter of women. She walks the walk.
I don't think that there would be a better leader for WiCyS than Lynn Dong. Yeah. Yes, definitely champion for women.
Yeah. So what were you expecting when you came to your first WiCyS?
I didn't know what to expect, quite honestly. Working at NSA, I've been to my share of conferences, right? I've been to conferences that were DoD specific, conferences that were intelligence community specific, conferences about public-private partnerships, right? So I've seen every sort of mechanization of a conference, right? Then I come to my first WiCyS conference in 2022, and I see all of these young, bright women, and every single panel, whether it was workplace focused, technically focused, governance focused, was included a woman on a panel. And I had never seen that. Yeah. I've been in cyber for a long time. So from 2004 to 2022, that was about the 18-year mark. Mm-hmm. And I had never seen a conference like that before. So I had to come back last year, and I'm here again.
Yeah. And now this year, when you were getting ready to come to WiCyS, did you have an agenda in mind or anything that you really wanted to make sure you did or things you saw? Or, I mean, I'm going to be honest, I mostly like hallway con. I like just meeting people. I go to the sessions too, but it's mostly just getting to meet other bright women.
Well, I make a point of trying to meet women who work in industries that I've never touched. So with a lot of what's going on today, I sort of have sort of on my to-do list is to meet some folks in the energy sector. And so like at the strategic partner meetup, I met a wonderful person from Chevron. And so that was cool. So I was able to cross that off of my list. But I also like to meet and just see the young talent. Okay, just being in cyber, being a Black woman in cyber, and being in the field this long, it's a grind. And actually coming here, I feel inspired. I get inspired from the youth and their enthusiasm, right? And they're just full of potential. And the obstacles that they face today are far fewer than the obstacles that, that I face, and I face fewer obstacles in turn than some of women who've been the pioneers of our field.
Yeah, I was actually listening to a podcast a couple days ago where they were talking about, it can feel right now like we're kind of backsliding a little bit, but in a broader context, societally, the backlash is because of how much progress has been made. And, people like to think progress is linear, but it's not. It's usually you make huge gains and then you start to lose a little bit and everybody's like, oh no, and then you make another big leap. And one of the most amazing things to me is to your point, like the number of women of color that are in WiCyS. This is one of the most diverse, not just, women, but also like diverse women, like it's really encouraging to me because I think one of the things I say a lot, especially thinking about things like AI, is unless you want technology that serves mostly upper middle class, mostly white, mostly men, you can't have technology that's built by mostly upper middle class, mostly white, mostly men. We need diversity in builders, or we're going to end up with technology that only serves a segment of the population.
Right. That's such a great point. And I had the privilege of going to grad school at Carnegie Mellon. So I was already in a student population that was representative of the world. Unfortunately, there really wasn't. The Black graduate student population was probably about 1%. With that said, Carnegie Mellon is my favorite alma mater. I do believe that they try to do outreach to all communities. They get it, right? So the ethos of the school is technology in service of the rural. Yeah. So I understand your point. Right. So.
Well, and I think it's great to have, people like you as an example, because I really believe that you can't be what you can't see. And if you don't see yourself reflected in an industry, it may not necessarily be an industry you consider entering. Like I was building my own computers at 12, 13, 14, but I didn't go into technology originally. I didn't go into end up in security until my 30s because all I saw were men. And so it was like technology was not something I thought about. And so I'm now seeing so much better representation. I go speak at colleges and high schools and you see so many women in those classes now. And you're like, all right, now we just need to keep them in there, right? Like we're balancing out the schools. And now we just need to make sure everybody makes it into the industry and feels supported and represented. So.
We learned all this legacy stuff, COBOL, DB2, CICS, JCL, Sybase, right? All to be project managers for Y2K, right? We get placed and most of us are doing development, right? So I wound up doing sort of some mainframe development and then found myself at Goldman Sachs doing sort of second level support. So after the markets close and trades get reconciled and the batch cycle starts. I was on a team that watched programs on a critical path and worked with folks who were outsourced in Bangalore, right? And I was the only woman on the team. Okay? I was the only woman on the entire floor.
I worked at Fidelity and it was very similar.
Yes, when I talk to some young women today, they're like, "You are the only woman on the floor?" Yes. Yeah. So the team I had the privilege to work on wanted to keep me. And in the early 2000s, Goldman Sachs was building up their now very prestigious cyber operation, but the focus back then was host-based protection and boundary protection. So they were looking for systems administrators and network administrators. And that wasn't my background. And as a woman, I was very concerned when you're underrepresented, right? I'm thinking I have this MBA and I have this training, but I don't have a technical credential. So I knew that there was a program where I fell into tech. Could there be this program that I could fall into cyber, which wasn't even called cyber
it wasn't
back
CyberSecurity,
then. It was information assurance, right? So I found this program from the National Science Foundation called CyberCore Scholarship for Service. It's still around today. And they pay you to go to graduate school to get a degree in cybersecurity, and you owe a work obligation to the federal government. And that's how I fell into the field.
It's amazing to me, like how many people, now that we're kind of later in our careers, got into the career by accident.
Right.
And, I feel very lucky that I kind of got recruited to, I didn't even know what a SIM was when I got recruited to build one. So with all your experience.
You mean you didn't play the Sims game?
I played a lot of Sims, so with your experience, when you're mentoring, I imagine you do a lot of mentoring.
Yes.
So when you're talking to young women now and they want to get into cybersecurity, what do you tell them that you wish you had known earlier on?
Oh, wow. Wow. I would tell them to have more confidence in themselves. I would tell them that their careers are not a sprint, right? I won't say that it's a marathon, but I would say that you have to run or walk your own journey, right? And it's more important, don't feel like when you're underrepresented, there's a feeling often that everybody knows this except for me. Mm-hmm. So you feel like you now have to only know X, you have to know A through Z too, right? And so there's this constant feeling of internalizing the perceptions about you, right? I would tell them because I was born and raised in Harlem, right? And I'd experienced so much in my just growing up. Both my parents died when I was very young. I didn't have any guidance and help, and I didn't know how to ask for guidance and help. And so I said a lot of things. I would go back, and that would be the number one thing that I would say. If you're getting stuck, ask for guidance and help.
Yeah. I think people often underestimate the extent to which senior people want to share their knowledge, because it's like we've spent all these years accumulating all of this knowledge, and it's like, what am I going to do with it other than share it with people? And so when I was talking to people earlier today and they were asking about, well, when I send my resume in through the website and AI reads it, and I said, well, then don't do that. Like, reach out to people on LinkedIn. I'm like, pay the $20 a month so that you can message people proactively on LinkedIn.
Right.
And if you're being genuine and you have a deep question, you're like, hey, I saw this thing about your product or your company, here's a thought that I had. Do you have time to discuss this? Like, so many of us are so willing to help other people because we've all been in that position.
Exactly.
And I always want to be the help that I wish that I had had.
Right. Right. And I think some of the biggest lessons is that we were on the early end, right? And a lot of people that we work with had no tech degrees, They had no cyber degrees,
Yeah.
right? And sharing our cyber and tech origin stories, right? I think a lot of our profiles and our resumes, right, they're designed for a certain reason, right? To market, to sell us, so put us in the best light. Well, we know the stories that aren't on a digital profile or on your paper resume.
Well, my failures are just as important as my successes. I just don't put them in my, I talk about them when I interview, but I don't put them in my resume, that's for sure.
No, don't do that.
Yeah,
Right? We want to be candid to folks, but don't do that.
Yeah. Well, Gabby, thank you so much for joining today. I'm so glad we got a chance to meet. Yeah, it was great. Thank you.
Jackie.
Stay tuned. We'll be back with more live from WiCyS 2026. Welcome back to WiCyS 2026. I'm Jackie McGuire, your host of Women in the Middle, and I am here with Sage Despain. Sage, welcome.
Thank you for welcoming me. This is a really awesome opportunity. I'm super excited to talk with you.
Yeah, I'm super glad that you could be here. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? I know you're a student, right?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm currently a computer science major at Bowie State University. I have a cybersecurity focus. Prior to that, I studied information technology at Prince George's Community College. And right now I'm in the last semester of my senior year, so I'm looking into different opportunities in the cybersecurity field and just meeting different people. And this is actually my third WiCyS conference, and I'm just really excited to be here.
Yeah, so what made you switch from one to the other, from information technology to...
Yeah, so what really it was more so when I was starting at Prince George's Community College, I chose information technology because I was scared of math, I was scared of coding, I was just, I guess in a sense, just scared of failure. And kind of from that, I was just I kind of was like, maybe I should just face my fears and just kind of do what's hard, and maybe I'll grow from it. So once I finished my 3 semesters at Prince George's Community College, I transferred over to Bowie State, where I now study computer science, and it's just been so much exposure. I've been there, this is my 5th semester now, and I've been able to kind of grow out of my shell in a sense where I am challenging myself, and it's just been really fun.
And have you failed?
No, I haven't actually. I haven't gotten anything less than a B in all of my classes, so.
Don't worry, it'll happen. No, I honestly, I think failure is a gift. I was just having this conversation. We were in the Seahurst technical area. And I have failed many, many times, but I can always point to something I learned from one of those failures that led to success in another area. So you've been at the WiCyS conference for 3 years. Tell me, what did you expect when you came the first time?
Yeah, so actually, WiCyS was my first cybersecurity conference in general. So when I came here, it's just been a mind-blowing experience. I didn't really know what to expect, essentially, because the first time I attended, it was in Dallas, Texas, at the Gaylord there. And I kind of went with my school at the time, which was Prince George's Community College. And when I got there, I was just, networking with different people. I kind of got exposure. I got to do the CTF, and it blew me away.
Yeah.
And actually, from there, I started going to other cybersecurity conferences, and I was like, it was a completely different vibe. I was like, where are the women?
Yeah.
And I kind of had that culture shock because I was so used to that environment that WiCyS created when I first attended. So.
Yeah, it can be a little tough. We were talking before we started recording that we're both DEF CON junkies, and yeah, I think it's getting better. I'm always really inspired when I go to high schools and colleges to speak because the ratio is every time I go, it's getting better and better. I was at I'm trying to remember, I was at a community college a couple months ago that was actually like 65% women in the class, and I was like, yes! So now that you're in your 3rd year, what are some things that maybe you come into the conference looking for, or do you prioritize like networking versus sessions? Like, how do you make those decisions?
That's a very great question. So when I first went to WiCyS, I went to so many workshops. I was very focused on just learning more about the cybersecurity community, but also learning about different cybersecurity concepts. And now I'm kind of more so focused on the meetups and focused on the events and kind of just getting to know my community more. and trying to like meet people that have similar interests to me or that are doing different things that I didn't know about. So kind of now, like I recently just got back from a meetup where it was a bunch of early career people. We got matcha together.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I have to say that now that I've been going to conferences for a while, not that I don't always have, I do try to attend some sessions, but it's really the networking that I feel like is good, especially I think working from home, because I work remotely a lot of the time and I miss people. And so every time I get to a conference, it's like, oh, people, and my kind of people. One of the things that I found, coming to WiCyS is that it really created this sense of kind of belonging for me. Have you found that as well? That you're like, oh, these are my people.
Definitely. I mean, WiCyS is the kind of conference where you could be standing in line waiting for the doors to open for the keynote, and you just have random conversations with people and just learn more about them. Just out of nowhere. I mean, even just standing in line waiting to get my badge, I had multiple conversations with different people, and it's just that kind of community where people are just, it's just so welcoming. Yeah. You don't get that in many places. And that's what I love so much about WiCyS.
Yeah. So changing gears a little bit, as we look at how rapidly technology is evolving and you think about, going and getting your first kind of full-time gig in security, what are the biggest concerns you have right now?
Yeah, the biggest concerns I have are just, especially as an early career professional, just the impact that AI is going to have on different opportunities that are out there. With that being said, there are still tons of opportunities that I was able to come across, and I'm kind of, in a sense, I know it's there, and that's kind of why I also, me and my friend, we run a student chapter at our university, and we try to educate people on how to leverage AI, and that's kind of the take that I have on that. Is that, yes, it is a thing that's there and it is something to be aware of, but also that there are so many opportunities. Like right now, I'm really trying to get into systems engineering.
Okay.
And just creating more resilient systems.
Yes.
For,
because your agents don't work if everything's offline, right?
Exactly.
Has AI changed how you are going through school the last couple years? Has it changed the kind of classes you're taking or your focus?
It's definitely encouraged me to kind of step out of just the regular curriculum that our school provides. School, they're still trying to catch up with how AI impacts everything and kind of how to respond to that.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've kind of talked to my professors a lot about, and we have like open conversations about this. And it's something that we're all still trying to figure out. But in terms of the impact it's had on me, it's kind of been, there's good and bad to it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I get it. And I have kids in middle school right now. And so it's interesting for them thinking about, as one of them's going to start high school next year. And, what do I tell them about how they should be preparing for the world? Like what types of careers might be available? One of the things I think in security is great, though, is that no matter what you automate, there are always going to be adversaries who are using very human skills and intuition and kind of, I always say, mischievous kids. So I think we're always going to need a human to try to combat some of that. So that's definitely something that I've taken some hope in, is that security is constantly changing, and I don't ever think you'll need AI to combat the threats of AI, but you're always going to need humans to combat the threats of humans, because humans are crafty and and things like that. So let's say you come back to WiCyS in 5 years and you're a mentor because you're killing it in your career and you're here. What do you hope to say that you've accomplished 5 years from now?
I would like to say that I have kind of grown more into the community. I really would like to be on the board of a nonprofit organization, and WiCyS is a really great proponent of that. We actually have a Mid-Atlantic affiliate as well that I'm kind of working a lot more closely with now since I'm graduating. I kind of want to find more ways to contribute as an early career professional and kind of help grow the WiCyS community. Yeah. So that's kind of something that I want to say when I come back to WiCyS, is that, that there's more that we can do.
Yeah. I would love to see you be a leader in academia too, because one of the, you just cited this, I think one of the issues that I've seen historically is that academia generally lags a few years behind the industry in terms of what they're teaching and kind of keeping up with trends. And of course, you don't want to chase every shiny object, but you do want to be learning about the things that are actually going to impact you as you come out of school. So I would love to see somebody be a better bridge between, the community colleges especially, because I think community colleges are going to become increasingly important as we're trying to skill up a cyber workforce. And so being somebody who can advise on, hey, here's what's actually going on in the industry, here's what we actually need. I had a funny experience. I was working in finance when I got my economics and finance degree. And by the time I was a senior, I had been in finance for like 6 or 7 years. And I remember getting a message from my professor that was like, I was doing online school, that was like, hey, thanks for posting about how things really work all the time, but we have curriculum to get through. So you can't disagree with things all the time. And I was like, but you're teaching people about theory, not reality. And, there are banking regulations that say certain things, but that's not how banks actually implement them. And I'm sure the same thing happens in security.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, that happens a lot. I was actually having a conversation with my professor. I'm taking software and operating system security. So I'm learning a lot about different types of vulnerabilities and hardware and software and how to remediate against those and kind of how the different tools that are out there to check for that. And lots of the tools that the professor was mentioning, it didn't involve any kind of AI. And there are so many tools that you can use to solve vulnerabilities with AI now. Yeah. And there's even offline models that even create, exploits. There's OLAMA. You can kind of do different kinds of things with tools now that can do great things and bad things. So it's kind of like trying to balance that out and kind of expose people. And the way I've kind of been doing that is whenever we have those group projects, I kind of try to find ways to integrate that so I can kind of show, the professor and also my classmates as well, that there are so many different, things out there that you can learn about.
Yeah. So if there are students out there who are thinking about getting involved with WiCyS, what is your advice to them?
My advice to them is to just go for it. It's for students, it's only a $25 membership fee. Mm-hmm. That's a very small investment to get yourself forward in your career. Me and my friend are actually co-mentors right now for the Aspiring Mentors program, and we're mentoring undergraduate students that are earlier in their career, junior level, and they're looking for different opportunities. And what I'd love to say about WiCyS is that there are just so many people that you can connect with and kind of grow with and learn from. There are so many times where I thought I had an idea of what I wanted to do, but then I talked to someone else and I was like, wow, this is so cool. Yeah. And kind of being able to just talk to different people and learn from their experiences, that's kind of what enriches your own experience as well. Yeah. And that's kind of what I would advise.
Well, if you're like any of my friends in security, you're going to have about 15 different careers in security because there's always new and interesting things. It's actually one of the things I love about security is that there's always a new thing to deal with. Yeah. Sage, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I'm really glad we got to meet and hang out. I'm sure we'll see each other at Hacker Summer Camp this summer.
Looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Jackie.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back from WiCyS 2026 with more interviews and insights. Welcome back. We are live at WiCyS 2026. I'm Jackie McGuire, the host of Women in the Middle, and I am joined by Sarah Morales. Sarah, welcome.
Thank you, Jackie. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so you are the Senior Program Manager at Google?
Yes, I am in the Office of the CISO within Google Cloud.
Oh, okay. That's not a small role.
Nope.
And Google's got a massive cloud program, so I imagine that is a lot of data to protect.
Yep.
And then you're also on the board of WiCyS.
I am. I've been on the board for about 4 years. And a member of WiCyS. I just looked it up today. My first WiCyS conference was 2018 in Chicago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And almost everyone since. There's one I missed, but...
Lynn and I were talking a couple weeks ago, and we did our first episode of the podcast about that WiCyS in Chicago, because that's her home territory. Yeah. So I was saying that I couldn't wait to come here because one of my favorite pizza places is here, and she was like, gosh. She's like, we gotta get the conference back to Chicago so you can have real pizza.
I'm from New York, so also, I don't know. Yeah. I would definitely be able to bring you to New York after Chicago.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about how you discovered WiCyS and kind of what you expected coming into your first conference.
Yeah, so I joined Google about 12 years ago. I was in a consumer support team. So one of the folks that help, if you're looking for help with a Google product, kind of where you go, and if you're like, I got this niche problem, you post in a forum, and we try to help get you answers. But that time I also had my first kid, in tech and commuting a lot, and family was tough, so I was looking for a new role, and actually found a role within one of Google's security engineering teams at the time that was very focused on engaging with the security community. So that was kind of my first step into security. I'd worked a lot in open source communities and in these kind of online community development, but never security. And so part of that role is how I was introduced to WiCyS. Google was already a sponsor, but we didn't have, we did the event, we weren't yet a strategic partner, and so my first conferences was in Chicago 2018, and I just kind of fell in love with the energy of the conference, and I was new to security, so I was also looking around and trying to learn myself. I was in this, pretty intimidating environment, like security at Google, right? You have a lot of experts. So it was a place where I could both represent Google's expertise, but also learn myself. And so that's where I kind of, and then I attended a few more conferences, and then we started to look at, as we were recruiting more and thinking about diversity within our teams, we moved into becoming a strategic partner, and then I built just a really good rapport with Lynn and the team, and then just started to do more program development with them.
Awesome. So on the board, what do you focus on?
I focus on fundraising, and trying to engage our top sponsors and bring in new sponsors and think about, okay, who do we have involved now? Who do we want to bring in more? So obviously a lot of the AI companies, right, we're trying to engage more with them. And you'll see a lot of the content here at the conference is very focused on that. And I also have helped with a lot of the program development. So the Security Training Scholarship Program that was founded in 2020, Google was actually the seed funder for that, and we helped to partner with SANS and WiCyS to launch that. So I do some, giving, tips and advice on what I think the programs that we need, and then also how to keep the organization live and healthy and growing.
Yeah, one of my good friends who's looking to transition into security just did the Google security program through WiCyS.
Oh, awesome.
I went to dinner with her last night, and she was telling me wonderful things about it, and that she got a lot out of it.
That makes me happy. That's always, there's always a meetup, and that's one of my favorite meetups, because you really can see how this program really helps people transition their careers, and also that kind of early networking, because a lot of them meet each other online first through this community, and then actually the conference is the first time they meet in person, so it's pretty fun.
Yeah, and I interviewed Lynn yesterday and Will Marco talking about the kind of quantitative research they've done on how those types of programs actually benefit employers. So when you're talking to prospective sponsors, how do you talk to them about the value they'll actually receive from a WiCyS sponsorship or partnership?
Yeah, well, that same study, one of the things that stood out to me was that how important networking and professional development was for WiCyS members. And I think for sponsors, it's, you're a part of the current and next generation of security professionals, so you want to engage with them around your products, around your culture and your company. But also, I think because we're often in these settings, we're at these massive conferences like RSA or Black Hat or DEF CON, right? This is a very different feeling when you come into this room, and I think it helps really that your staff to feel comfortable in learning and engaging with others. I think that's a big benefit for Google. Is I actually meet new Googlers every single year. We usually have a pretty big contingent, and some of the people I've become closest professionally working with, I met at WiCyS, 5-6 years ago. So I think it helps both for the company to meet potential employees, to show commitment to the space, but also for development of your employees, right? This is a place where you can show your own thought leadership, right? A lot, one of the biggest, I think, perks we take is getting to be on a main stage. There's always a keynote from a Googler every year, and that's a really big professional accomplishment, as well as meeting and networking. I think that networking piece is really important.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said for, in all of the various roles I've had over the last several years, I've ended up at a lot of conferences, and the conferences that are more about selling, and not to take away anything from RSA or Black Hat or reInvent or any of those, but they can be somewhat stressful because everybody's hustling. And this conference is very disarming because it's all about community and people coming together, and so I think if you think about the brand experience that your customers or potential employees are going to have with you, a place like this where they're more relaxed, more disarmed, kind of more in their element, that probably sets a foundation for a much more positive brand experience. And so I think there's something really to be said about what you what you gain from that, from people being more open.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. I hadn't thought about the selling versus the non-selling.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously it's great to go to a conference where people are looking to buy and you're looking to sell, but I also think that here where it's more, people are feeling very in their element, and that's one of the overwhelming things I hear from especially the younger women here is how open everybody is, and how like they thought they were going to be uncomfortable or nervous, but the first couple minutes you're here, you'll meet somebody that'll introduce themselves and connect, and
you can sit at a table and not be intimidated. No one's going to use like too crazy of a jargon on you, or people, and some people are very new to it, so they'll be with groups, but they kind of start to branch out, and this is, as much as your skills are important, your ability to network and your ability to stay in touch professionally and learn what those kind of professional relationship building looks like is just as important for your career.
Yeah. So when you're engaging with either your own mentees or, at WiCyS, people who are maybe younger, newer to the industry or changing careers, what advice do you give them in terms of how to kind of put themselves out there and really try to seek their first opportunity or their first mentor?
So I think, everyone's always asks, how do I get a job at Google? It's probably 50% of what I ask, or what is it like to work there, and a lot of that. Right now people are obviously pretty worried about AI and what AI is going to do to jobs. And so a lot of what I talked about yesterday was think about, yes, AI will change jobs, but you have a moment right now where everyone's still learning AI and what the best tools are. So being able to go into an interview and talk about, okay, I tried out these 3 different ones. This is what I'm seeing, or I built my own agent and it doesn't quite work with this other. So like now is really your time to experiment with that and bring that into your interviews or just into your as you're having conversations with people, thinking about what open source projects there are that you can get involved in. Students, you're busy, but you're not going to be as busy as when you have a full-time job. So take those opportunities to play around on GitHub and figure out what might be a project that interests you, because that's going to be really important for your resume, especially coming into a company like Google where the innovation is really valued. So if you can come in and say oh, I built this thing and then it broke, and then I tried to debug it, or I noticed this, or when I vibe code on this one versus this one I see this, that's going to impress a hiring manager a lot more than just I took this coursework or whatever it might be. I forget the second part of your question.
Oh no, just in terms, I think that's a really great answer, because I don't want to knock certifications and things like that. They're great, but I think, people say that we have I think there's a difference between a talent shortage and a talent gap. Yeah. And generally the research I've seen says there's a talent gap, and that, people get certifications, but then they don't demonstrate what they can do with them. And so that's, I was in, this year I kind of, not sponsored, was a proponent of setting up the See Her as Technical area. And so I brought a bunch of really technical experts in, and that's one of the conversations I was having with the people coming into the area, is I was like, go build something. Yeah. If you don't say I want to get into threat intelligence, just get into threat intelligence, and
sign up for a free account.
Vibe code a website to show what you did, and then you can say, I do threat intelligence. You don't have to be doing something as a full-time job to say you do it. You just have to take what you learn and be able to show what you know. Because I think that the ability to actually take action and build and innovate is the piece that we're missing. And that's generally the first. I've been very lucky in that most of the jobs I've gotten over the last 10 years have been because I did the work and put it out there, and then a company saw it and we're like, hey, we saw this thing you did, we want to talk to you more about that. So.
And I think one thing is too, is as you go through it, you're like, okay, these 3 things confuse me and I still don't understand them. Yeah. So then I'm going to go and try to figure those out. And one thing I've learned a lot with working with a lot of very deep to technical people is they're okay explaining things to you. Yeah. You're better off going in and being like, I understand this part, I don't understand this part, and I'm trying to figure this out, and then they work through it, versus going in and just standing there and pretending you know something or not quite knowing what to say. You can go in and say, I know you are an expert in this part, I'm trying to build a metric to measure this thing, would you talk with me about that? Yeah. And that's one thing that I've learned a lot over the last my time at Google, and just in my, the last, being in security, like the last decade. I'm like, I need to admit what I don't quite know, but what I want to learn and how I'm thinking about it. And people are open to sharing with you. Like, you'll be very surprised. Like, some of the most advanced people, like, they started somewhere, right? And so being open with, like, and being okay, and it's nerve-wracking. It can be nerve-wracking, but just being like, I can admit that I don't actually know what that access control jargon that you're saying it is, but this is what I think it does. Am I right? Or where should I go learn more? Or who should I talk to? Like, I think that, and that's a skill set also you have to kind of get comfortable with. Like, that's similar in the networking communications bucket of skill building versus the vibe coding skill set or whatever.
I think that's also a really important thing to know for interviewing.
Yeah.
Is that when you're interviewing, it's okay to say you don't know something.
Totally.
Because
yeah.
what the person interviewing you is generally looking for is not you to know the answer to everything, but to know that you say, I'm not really sure, I haven't dealt with that before.
Yeah.
Here's something similar that I've encountered, or here's how I think I would go about figuring that out. Because nobody knows everything. And I'm very similar in that I never really intended to be in cybersecurity, and so I've never triaged alerts in a SIM. I've never had to respond to a network outage, and I often I end up in these social circles and groups of these crazy talented actual hackers. And I ask stupid questions like, how do I change the format of my screenshots on my MacBook? I did what I saw on Google and it's not working. But there are people who have accumulated decades of knowledge. They have nothing to do with it but share it. And there are so few people in security who want to hoard the knowledge that they have. And I think people underestimate the extent to which people want to share with you what they know.
Well, also there's two things of that is, one, if you're hoarding knowledge and not sharing it, you're a security risk, right? Because if you don't come into work the next day and you have all the knowledge, that's actually a massive risk to your company. Like, you should not be one person that has it all, right? Like, that's actually in like a tabletop exercise. Like, someone's on an airplane. Well, they're the only ones who know the IR plane. Like, well, that's actually a big risk.
The TED problem. Like, only TED knows how to do this.
Exactly. And secondly, if you're in a customer-facing team, which almost all of our big companies, right, or small companies have to make money, right? And so if you don't understand it, then probably someone who's working the customer you're selling to doesn't understand it. So maybe the technical lead you're talking to isn't the person that has to then go to market with it, but sometimes they are. And like, if you're there and can't figure it out, then they need to realize that, like, well, is our customers going to be able to figure this out? And if our customers can figure it out and then they're not secure, that's going to make us look bad. So like, there's like kind of two parts of that, of like the security risk, and also like most people at some point are connected to selling, even if they don't think they are, because the sustainability of that business will depend on someone selling something. So that's important, I think, for people to know. And I think sometimes it's probably earlier on in your career, you don't realize like how important that explaining these products to people, especially as they get more and more complicated and like disambiguated sometimes from the foundations, like that's going to be really important.
Absolutely. So as we look forward, as WiCyS continues to change and grow and evolve, what does success look like for you?
I think we've got 2,000 people here, and we've had a year of a lot of change, or 2 years. And so it's awesome to still see like people continue to come back. I'd like us to continue to lean in, which we are, on the AI and like really thinking about how is the workforce going to change. I think WiCyS can play a really big role in advising companies on, what they should be thinking about from training their staff or hiring their staff. So I'd like us to really make sure we're staying connected on that front of like, what is this future of work and how are we getting people prepared now for that, and how are we preparing the businesses or our educational partners? Like, I think we have a real, because we have members from so many places, we have a real opportunity to be a leader in that, kind of being an advisor and partner both to individuals and to larger organizations.
Sarah, thank you so much for being here
today.
Thank you
for having me.
This was awesome.
So fun.
Yeah, and
appreciate you being here too.
Hopefully we'll see you next year, and we'll have even more new things to talk about.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Stay tuned. We'll be back with more interviews live from WiCyS 2026.